Welcome to Keep Learn ET. Have you ever tried to enroll a Windows device into Microsoft Intune only to be stopped by error 80180026? The enrollment fails. The device isn't managed and you're left wondering where to begin. In enterprise environments, enrollment failures can delay employee onboarding, interrupt device deployment projects, and increase help desk workload. That's why understanding the root cause is more important than simply memorizing an error code. In this masterclass, we'll learn what error 80180026 means, understand where it occurs in the enrollment process, explore its common causes, perform enterprise-level troubleshooting, and review real-world scenarios and best practices. Let's begin by understanding the enrollment journey. Error is a Windows enrollment error that occurs while a device is attempting to enroll into Microsoft Intune. The enrollment process involves communication between the Windows device, Microsoft Entra ID, and Microsoft Intune. If Windows detects a condition that prevents enrollment from continuing, the process stops and displays an error code. One documented cause for error 80180026 is a conflict between automatic MDM enrollment and the legacy Intune PC client installed on the device. Depending on your environment, additional configuration issues may also contribute to enrollment failures. Rather than guessing, administrators should identify the point of failure and verify the relevant prerequisites one by one. To troubleshoot successfully, you first need to understand the enrollment workflow. The process starts when a user signs in with a Microsoft Entra ID account. Microsoft Entra ID authenticates the user and evaluates whether the account meets the requirements for device management. If automatic MDM enrollment applies, Windows contacts Microsoft Intune to begin device enrollment. Intune then evaluates enrollment policies and management settings. If every required validation succeeds, the device is enrolled and becomes managed. If any required validation fails, Windows stops the process and reports an enrollment error. Understanding this workflow helps you determine where to begin troubleshooting instead of changing settings at random. Error 80180026 typically appears during the enrollment stage after the user has started the registration process, but before the device becomes fully managed. At this point, Windows is validating whether enrollment can continue based on the organization's configuration and the device's current state. This is why collecting information about the device, its history, and the enrollment method is so important before making any changes. In the next module, we'll examine the common reasons why this validation can fail. Now that you understand where the error occurs, the next question is, why does it happen? In the next module, we'll explore the most common root causes, including conflicts with the legacy Intune PC client, automatic MDM enrollment configuration, MDM user scope licensing, and enrollment policies. Understanding these causes will prepare you for the practical troubleshooting walkthrough that follows. In this module, we've built the foundation for understanding error 80180026. We learned what the error represents, where it appears in the Windows enrollment process, and why understanding the enrollment workflow is essential before troubleshooting. In Module 2, we'll begin identifying the specific conditions that can trigger this error and learn how to recognize each one. In Module 1, we learned where error 80180026 occurs in the Windows enrollment process. Now let's understand why it happens. One common mistake is assuming that every enrollment error has multiple unrelated causes. In reality, each error code often points to a specific condition that prevents enrollment from completing. For error 80180026, Microsoft documents a common scenario involving a conflict between automatic MDM enrollment and the legacy Microsoft Intune PC client installed on the device. Before changing cloud settings or modifying policies, always verify whether this conflict exists. Starting with the documented cause can save significant troubleshooting time. Before cloud-based management became the standard, organizations often used the legacy Microsoft Intune PC client to manage Windows computers. As organizations migrated to modern cloud management, many older devices retained this client. When automatic MDM enrollment is enabled, the presence of the legacy client can create a conflict that prevents the enrollment process from completing successfully. This is why understanding the management history of the device is so important. A device that has been reimaged or repurposed may still contain components from a previous management approach. Automatic MDM enrollment allows Windows devices to enroll into the organization's mobile device management service after identity verification. When configured correctly, users experience a seamless enrollment process with minimal manual steps. However, if the device still contains components from a legacy management method, automatic enrollment may not complete as expected. Understanding how automatic MDM enrollment works is essential because it helps you recognize where the enrollment process stops and why conflicts can occur. A device's history often explains today's problem. Was the computer recently reimaged? Was it reassigned to another employee? Was it previously managed using a different solution? These questions help determine whether remnants of an earlier management method might still exist. Understanding the life cycle of the device is an important part of enterprise troubleshooting. Instead of making random changes, follow a logical decision process. First, identify whether the device has ever been managed before. Next, determine whether the legacy Intune PC client is present. Then verify whether automatic MDM enrollment is the intended enrollment method. If these conditions align with the documented scenario, you've identified a likely root cause and can move confidently into troubleshooting. In this module, we've focused on understanding the primary root cause associated with error 80180026 and why it occurs in certain environments. We explored the relationship between automatic MDM enrollment and the legacy Intune PC client, discussed the importance of device history, and built a structured decision process. In the next module, we'll move into practical diagnostics and verification, where you'll learn how to examine the Windows device and validate your findings step by step. Before opening any management console or changing configuration settings, the first responsibility of an enterprise administrator is to gather accurate information. Start by recording the computer name, Windows edition, Windows build, and the user attempting enrollment. Next, identify the enrollment method. Was the device joined during the out-of-box experience, through company portal, or from the access work or school settings? Also ask whether this computer is brand new, reimaged, or previously managed. Many enrollment issues become much easier to understand once you know the device's history. Finally, record the exact error code and any additional messages shown during enrollment. Accurate documentation ensures you troubleshoot the right problem instead of making assumptions. The next step is understanding how the device was previously managed. Error 80180026 is commonly associated with a conflict involving the legacy Intune PC client. If the computer was previously managed using that client, remnants of the older management method may interfere with modern enrollment. Ask whether the device has been rebuilt from an older image, reassigned to another employee, or migrated from an earlier management platform. Understanding device history often explains why two seemingly identical computers behave differently during enrollment. Microsoft documents that one common cause of error 80180026 is the presence of the legacy Intune PC client, while automatic MDM enrollment is enabled. Open the list of installed applications and verify whether the legacy Intune PC client is present. If it exists, plan its removal following your organization's change management process. After removal, restart the device before attempting enrollment again. Always verify that you are removing the legacy client and not modern Intune management components. Once the device has been verified, review the automatic MDM enrollment configuration. Confirm that your organization's enrollment configuration matches the intended deployment strategy. If automatic MDM enrollment is enabled, ensure the device is expected to enroll using that method. Configuration mismatches between the organization's deployment strategy and the device's management history can create enrollment failures. Verify configuration carefully before making any modifications. The next step is examining the Windows registration status. Open an elevated command prompt and run dstrictcmd tilde status. Review important information including Azure AD join status, tenant information, device identifiers, and MDM configuration details. This command provides valuable insight into how Windows currently sees its identity and management state. Compare the results with your expected enrollment configuration. Any mismatch should be investigated before retrying enrollment. Save the command output as part of your troubleshooting documentation. Diagnostic logs provide the evidence needed to understand why enrollment failed. Open Event Viewer and review the Device Management Enterprise Diagnostics Provider Administrative Log. Examine events generated during the enrollment attempt and compare their timestamps with the user's actions. Although the log may not always mention error 80180026 directly, it often reveals which stage of enrollment failed and helps narrow the investigation. Collect relevant event details before proceeding with additional troubleshooting. After addressing the identified issue, retry the enrollment process. Monitor the enrollment carefully and confirm that the device completes registration successfully. Finally, verify that the device appears in your management portal with the expected compliance and management status. Successful troubleshooting isn't complete until you've confirmed that the device is functioning as expected and documented the solution for future reference. Let's put everything we've learned into a real enterprise scenario. Imagine your organization is migrating from traditional Windows management to modern cloud management. Hundreds of laptops are being reimaged and assigned to employees. Most devices enroll successfully, but a few fail with error 80180026. Instead of immediately changing cloud settings, the administrator follows a structured troubleshooting process. Device history reveals that the affected computers were built using an old corporate image containing the legacy management client. After removing the legacy component, restarting the devices, and repeating enrollment, the issue is resolved. This example shows why understanding a device's history is just as important as understanding cloud configuration. Even experienced administrators can make troubleshooting more difficult by skipping important steps. One common mistake is changing multiple settings simultaneously. When several changes are made at once, it's impossible to identify which one actually resolved the problem. Another mistake is ignoring device history. A computer that has been reimaged or previously managed may behave differently from a brand new device. Some administrators also focus only on the visible error code and forget to review diagnostic information. A structured, evidence-based approach always produces better results than trial and error. Preventing enrollment issues is always better than fixing them later. Maintain clean deployment images, remove obsolete management software before migration projects, test enrollment with a pilot group, and document every configuration change. Review device lifecycle processes regularly so older management components are removed before devices are reassigned. Good planning reduces support calls, shortens deployment time, and improves the overall user experience. A proactive approach is one of the most valuable skills an endpoint administrator can develop. If you're preparing for a Microsoft Intune or Endpoint Administrator interview, be ready to explain your troubleshooting methodology, not just the error code. You may be asked, what is error 80180026? How would you investigate it? What information would you collect before making changes? Why is device history important? The strongest candidates explain their thought process clearly and demonstrate a structured approach rather than simply listing possible fixes. Congratulations on completing this masterclass on Microsoft Intune Error 80180026. Throughout this course, we've learned where the error occurs, understood its documented cause, explored the enrollment workflow, followed a structured troubleshooting process, and applied that knowledge to real-world enterprise scenarios. The most important lesson is this: successful troubleshooting comes from understanding the process, collecting evidence, and making informed decisions, not from guessing. If this training helped you, consider subscribing for more Microsoft Intune, Windows management, and enterprise troubleshooting content. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next masterclass.